Hello and welcome back to another week of Open Mic Night. So glad you guys were able to join us. This week we have a top 10 for you, backed by popular demand, a top 10 of security and backup tips that I think will help you guys out in your everyday life with your Apple products. So stick around, let's have a good show. All right, so like I said, welcome back to another week of Open Mic Night. Tonight we have a little bit of news for you, another top 10, and then I have a pick of the week that I think will help you guys out with your webcam, surprisingly. A nice little app for your computer. So tonight, again, it's been happening every week. I think it's been kind of a constant thing. You guys are liking it. We're back with Mr. Colin Ball. Colin, another week in the bag. Did you have a fun week?
I did. It was tough getting back into the swing of things after being gone on vacation for a week, but I'm back in it. So
good to hear. Yeah, I was the same way. Today was a little rough. I was gone over the weekend for a wedding, and then we went to the lake after that and took a day off on actually yesterday. And I was confused. I thought today was Monday. I was just all in a mess. But you know what? We're here on a Tuesday night. I remembered. Don't worry, we're still here. We're live. We're good. And it's time for Open Mic Night, so it's always good. I like getting back behind the mic. We're all good. So we're back. We're good. All right. Yeah, I know. I can stop saying that. All right. Ready for podcasting, says Brian or something. I'm just going to call him Yoda in the chat room. Good time to mention that we are live every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, and 8 p.m. Eastern, out at omnpodcast.com/live. We've got two people here in the chat room. Good to have you guys here. Glad you guys can join us. Feel free to hop on at any time with your comments or questions or answers to things that I ask you guys in the chat room, which happens probably more than I'd like to admit. So you guys can always find everything else out about the show over at omnpodcast.com. Everything's out there, the subscription links, the show notes, anything about the show, you can find it out there. First of all, we want to thank everyone over at WLMNradio.com. They stream us live and they help us out. Roger, everyone over there, they're fantastic. If you guys are looking for any tech talk or music, they're streaming over at WLMNradio.com. Be sure to check them out. Now, we have a new announcement this week, and I talked about it last week, that we're starting a new network. So I decided this week, even though the website is not live and ready to go, I kind of want to give you guys a little bit of a teaser to it. The name of the network is the 2980 Network. So 2980 Network, it'll be at 2980network.com here, hopefully within the next week. We were hoping to have it up by tonight, but I didn't have enough time over the weekend, obviously being gone, to work on it. So 2980 Network is going to be a podcast network. We're Open Mic Night and Suits and Scrubs, and a new one I'm going to start. I'm not going to tell you guys about that one yet, but a new podcast I'm going to start. But the cool thing about having a network is that if anyone else out there is looking for a place to call home for their podcast, if any of you guys out there are wanting to start podcast, if you've ever even thought about it, talk to me about it. Email me at mike@29network.com. The nice part about being all part of our network is that, first of all, we do have pretty high standards. I'm not going to accept everyone, and I'll probably only accept a few. And you guys, there are a lot of rules to my network as far as content and stuff like that. I'll just go ahead and say that right off the bat. I'm not going to tiptoe around that one. I do have a lot of standards that I have for my podcast that are going to be on my network. But the cool thing about it is that we cover the hosting of the media. We cover the hosting of the website. We give you access to our website to host your stuff. So it's a free way for you guys to podcast. All of those costs of web hosting, media hosting, website, and all that stuff, it costs a lot each month. So the nice part about coming over to 2980 Network is that we cover all those costs for you because we're already doing it. So there's some trade-offs back and forth, but I just want to throw it out there to you guys. If you guys are thinking about starting a podcast, or if you guys already have a podcast and want to make it part of our network, email me, mike@29network.com. And finally, Patreon. Again, we're making that Patreon push. For every 10 we get, we're going to be giving away those coffee mugs. And, I decided, 10's a little steep for just starting out a Patreon campaign. So we're just going to go for every 3. If we can get 3 new patrons a week, and yes, I will admit it, that is, you guys can go check out there. It's because we've only had 2 sign up, and they signed up right away, and we hadn't had any since then. So I want to give away these coffee mugs. I just want to give them away. So patreon.com/OMN podcast. That's patreon.com/OMN podcast. But let's go ahead and just get into the actual podcast. The reason you guys, come over here to listen to the show, let's go ahead and just get that started. So in the news today, ApplePay is not going over too well. So today, ApplePay launches over in the UK but with little support from the UK banks. There's a lot of UK banks that are not supporting Apple Pay at its launch date, which was today. And obviously a bunch of angry bank customers took to Twitter today, and we saw a lot of comments of frustrated customers just mad that their bank is not supporting Apple Pay. And one of the biggest surprises is HSBC Bank. They were kind of rumored, and not even rumored, they were on Apple's website saying that they were going to be around for the launch. They were going to be, ready on day one, and they were not. Now, HSBC denies that. They said they were never going to be on day one, that they've told Apple, yes, we're going to have Apple Pay, but not on day one. So there was kind of a little conflict there. And of course, as of today, the Apple website was updated to say that it's coming soon for HSBC, whereas earlier it was kind of stating that it was going to be around at launch date. So HSBC, Lloyds, and Halifax are launching later this year. Another big one that wasn't around today, Barclays. One of the biggest banks over there not supporting Apple Pay. So really, Apple Pay launched and a majority of the customers not able to use it right away. Now, Colin, we saw this in the United States. When Apple Pay was first launched, it was rare to find a bank that actually did it. The big ones did, but not many of the little ones. And we saw they recovered fine. But do you think it's different now that Apple Pay has already been out for a little while and this is a UK launch? Is it any different?
I think it's a little bit different, especially for the fact that the UK, I feel like it might be a little bit easier in the US because they're dealing with the dollar. And over in the UK, you're dealing with a lot more than the euro. Like, there could be a lot of different kind of...
That's true. Currencies going on over there.
I believe there's more than one currency. Like the euro, everyone can be within the eurozone.
Well, especially those banks. Those banks are dealing with more than the dollar.
And so I think for a lot of banks, it could pose a lot of problems where they're trying to keep track of which card is being used where, and maybe they must have some problems already when it comes to money transfer or using a card over there. I know it's very difficult for someone to come over from the UK to the US and use a UK bank card here. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, they run on a totally different system over there. And especially even with, you look at the differences between they do chip and pin, whereas we were on the signature, and now we're moving to chip and sign, not even to chip and pin yet. So, even just the technology over there, it's just a whole different culture. Yeah. So, and I agree with you. I don't think this is a huge deal for them. We saw this in the United States. I bank at a bank that was not around at launch. They weren't even around for a few months. I had to wait till, I think, around the springtime, maybe February or March, before my bank even adopted Apple Pay, and it wasn't that big of a deal. Now, I know that the fans over there, though, the Apple fans are going to be a little more harsh on those banks because they said, hey, you know what, Apple Pay came out over a year ago. You guys have had time to prep for this. This is not like the American banks where it was kind of just like oh, hey, this is the first day Apple Pay ever is being launched and hop onto it. The technology's been worked out already over the last year. So I can understand where the customer's criticism comes. But overall, I don't think this is a bad thing for Apple especially. Maybe for the banks. Banks might be getting a little slack for it. But overall, for Apple Pay has done very well over here in America. Apple Pay is taking off, especially it has been shown that in the actual apps and using it online, using Apple Pay for things like Amazon, using Apple Pay for reloading your Starbucks gift card, which I just did today, things like that, Apple Pay has become very useful for, even when you're not using it at a physical store with the terminal, using it for things on your phone. It's been successful. And so as soon as those banks do support it, again, we've talked about it, they're getting it later this year. It's not like they're totally denying it. If these banks were saying, hey, we're not going to support Apple Pay at all, that would be a different story. No, they're just saying it's going to be a few months down the road. So I think that's totally fine and not going to be a big issue. Mm-hmm. So moving on, Apple, we've been talking about the rumored Apple streaming service. Now, this is a new service coming from Apple, obviously not announced yet, and we don't even have a launch date. There's rumor that they're going to talk about it maybe when they launch the iPhone in the fall. We're looking at a fall release date for the Apple streaming service. We don't even have a name yet coming from Apple. But the rumors are that this is going to be pretty much cable, but through the internet for your Apple TV. You're going to have a lot of the big networks, and it's going to be live streaming TV. So it's going to be just like having a cable connection, obviously with the limitations on your channel lineup. Now, the big part about this has been Apple going out and negotiating these deals with either the networks or the individual channels, like Discovery Channel and stuff like that. But the problem when you think about it is for the ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox, the big networks, those stations across the nation have different affiliates. They have different substations. In your city, you have an individual affiliate that is a CBS affiliate, NBC affiliate. And the hard part is if Apple had to go out and negotiate with all those individually, I mean, this would take forever. We probably would never see a streaming service. We wouldn't see those big affiliates working with Apple. So what Apple has done is Apple has gone to the big networks and say, hey, you guys negotiate with your affiliates by yourself. You guys tell them how much you're going to share with them on the revenue side, and then you guys come to us. And once we get that from you guys, then each individual customer, like for me in Omaha, Nebraska, I will have the local affiliate when I use the Apple streaming service. So kind of a smart idea on Apple's part. First of all, Apple stays out of the negotiations and they let the networks deal with it. The networks already have a working relationship with their affiliate. So I think this is a good way to do it. Colin, are there any, I can't see any downsides. Can you, or I mean, what do you think about the network doing the dealing instead of Apple doing the dealing?
I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that. It makes sense. It makes it easier on everyone. Like you said, it would take forever if Apple tried to go to every single affiliate in every single small town of the U.S. It's like
right.
CBS, NBC, and Fox and all of them have direct access to all of the affiliates because they're the ones who feed the program to them.
Right, exactly.
But I would say the one thing that I'm not excited about is the high end for the price.
I was just going to ask you about the price. Yeah. Okay. So the rumor is $10 to $40.
Yeah. Between 10 and 40
a month.
I'm okay with about 20, which is what Slack would be if you're just doing Slack TV with like the basic everything. No HBO, no whatever their specialty programs are. But 40, I feel like you're almost starting to, again, get back into the realm of you're paying for cable but not getting all of cable.
See, and that's exactly what I was thinking is if it's up to $40, why would I switch over from cable? You know, for me, it's like there has to be some sort of benefit to switch to Apple TV. Now, of course, the benefit is probably high quality, having this streaming over the internet as compared to coming over your cable. But still, at $40, you're not going to have that much of a difference. Now, difference between Slack TV and Apple is that now, as far as I believe, Slack does not have the local affiliate channels, correct?
They didn't, no.
Do they have any of the big networks, like even just the national coverage of those?
Well, what do you mean big networks?
So, like, can you watch CBS, NBC, ABC?
No.
Okay.
The big thing about Slack was everyone was saying that you can already watch, you can't watch live, but you can watch ABC, NBC,
right,
and Fox with Hulu. And so a lot of people were saying, well, if that's what you're wanting, get your local television there.
Okay, now, and this might be me being ignorant about how this whole thing works, but for those big networks, I can see Apple charging, my guess is that Apple's going to come out and say $19.99 is going to be the price for this service. Now, when you're talking to the affiliates, or when you're talking to the big network, isn't any number better than nothing? Because before, it's one more way that they're getting their content out. And for those networks, you can get those over the air still. If you have an antenna and a digital receiver, you can still get those. And so people that might even have that, if they have that right now, but they also have internet, they might be switching over to get a better, clearer channel, don't have to mess with the antennas. It might be more money than they have before because you can get their content for free. As far as I'm thinking, and it's only live. They're not doing a la carte here. So this isn't them saying, hey, you guys have to have your stuff available for streaming. Most of these networks already have that sort of stuff, or it's on Hulu. But this is just for the live streaming. So as far as I'm concerned, if I'm those networks, any money is better than no money when your content can already be accessed for free.
No, and I feel the same way. Sometimes I wish that Hulu had an option where you could, or someone had an option where you could live stream one of the normal basic cable channels. I got over that after a year and a half of you kind of getting after me to finally get a antenna, which is funny because once I moved from this apartment that I'm in, I won't need it.
Right.
But it's really one of those things that there's really not that much live events anymore. I feel like that you can't wait until the next day to watch it on Hulu. Sure, if you're into like award season and stuff like that with the Emmys and whether it be the Oscars, sure, that stuff you kind of have to watch it when it happens. But for most other things,
no, I totally agree.
I wouldn't pay the $20 just to get free channels. To me, it seems like a waste of money, regardless if I have an Apple TV. Like, I can just click away to my other port on my TV and be like, well, I don't need HDMI working right now. So.
Right. Well, yeah. So no, I totally agree. Because for me, live is not important, and it's kind of funny to me that Apple is pursuing this whole live TV thing because hasn't everyone been saying live is dead? I mean, for TV, because of the fact that everyone is willing to usually wait a day and watch it. Now, there still are your shows like Dancing with the Stars, America's Got American Idol, America's Got Talent, those sort of shows where watching live, means something and those people will pay. But besides those shows and sports, really, besides those two things, now I might pay $20 if I could get rid of my cable. Once I've always said this, my cable is free at this apartment. It's included, well, not free, but it's included in our whole rent and package that we have. And so I have it and I can't really disconnect it. So I have it. But if I lived in a place where I had to pay for it, sports might be enough for me to pay $20 if this Apple streaming service includes things like ESPN, and if it allows me to log in to watch ESPN whenever I needed to outside of my Apple TV. And if it gives me those logins, if it lets me do that sort of stuff, Fox Sports Net, things like that, okay, I can start to see the whole attraction to this. But for me, I agree with you. I'm not going to pay the $20 right now because I have the stuff on Hulu. I have the stuff on each individual app, the ABC app, the CBS app. I have it there. I don't need to watch live. I agree with you. So, and Gavin Campbell in the chat room says he only watches sports shows live, and that's mainly because it's near impossible to avoid the spoilers on social media. And that's pretty true. When you're watching sports, and I can't get away, Colin and I, whenever we are together, especially watching Creighton basketball, it's usually the only thing we watch together. We have to turn our phones over because we get tweets, ESPN alerts, and right towards the end of the game, we're like, okay, turn everything over. We don't want to see the score because we're streaming it and we're a few minutes behind. And no, I agree, Gavin. Good point. Yeah, you can't avoid the sports spoilers and even other spoilers of other TV shows. It's getting more and more difficult to avoid that. There's that what's the courtesy now? Isn't there a social media courtesy you're not supposed to talk about it for a week? You're supposed to wait a week before you give any of those things away.
Yeah, no one cares about that. No one cares about other people's feelings when it comes to that on social media.
Yeah, they just throw out the ending.
Yeah.
Just like the whole Harry Potter book debacle when the guy drove by and yelled that Dumbledore dies. So. Oh, oh man, spoiled it.
It's been 9 years.
It's been 9 years. If you didn't know that one, then yeah.
It's kind of like
I don't apologize for that.
If a movie's been out for over a year, I no longer feel bad telling someone the ending.
Yeah, no, me neither.
It's I haven't seen it. Too bad.
About a year. It's been out on DVD. It's been to Redbox. You could have watched it for $1. I'm pretty good.
You've had all these opportunities.
Right. Exactly. All right. So that was it because we do have a longer tip segment today. So that was it for the news. Now we're going to move into the seed.
Can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. Can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward.
So the seed, the segment of the show where we talk about stuff that happened in Apple's past that makes them who they are today. So today we're going back to 2002. So try and think back to 2002, which is hard for me. I can't really, when you think about the 2000s, they kind of all just lumped together. So when I hear of something that happened in 2002, I'm like, wasn't that just a few years ago? It's very shocking to me how far we've come since 2002. And to prove that point, back in 2002, at the Macworld Expo, it was in New York, Apple really announced a lot of new products. They were announcing macOS 10.2, which was Jaguar, a 17-inch flat screen iMac, you remember those thick white iMacs, and the .Mac online services, which ended up being a complete failure. As we saw, Apple was never good at cloud. They're barely good at cloud now, but .Mac was an extreme failure, so this is when they launched that. It was formerly called iTools, iTunes 3.0, and a new generation of iPods featuring that solid-state click wheel, meaning the one that didn't roll around physically. You would just run your finger around it, and it would scroll around. So that was the first one that the industry saw, and those were actually a pretty big success for Apple. Those were kind of the iconic iPods when you think back to Apple iPads or iPods. And the new iPods, this was kind of big for them. They were now available on Windows and Mac. So first iPods that could be used on both operating systems, which I know was huge, especially for me because in my household at that time, my mom might have had a Mac, but oh man, I can't remember what it did. So all we had was the Windows laptop. My dad's work computer was what we used to load up songs onto the iPods. So that is what we used. So that was a big thing for Apple. So again, that was back in 2002. But isn't that just weird to think that in 2002 we were only at that stage for Apple? I mean, that's
kind of. I mean, especially with the whole fact that that's when the iPod with at least that was when iPod, I hate saying the phrase went mainstream because it makes to me it kind of elicits like people being like they went mainstream.
Right.
It's like by saying they went mainstream, it's one of those things where I think that's when the commercials of the silhouette against the solid color background with the headphones, I think that's when that started.
Oh, was it?
I think because I didn't even know that an iPod existed that had the sliding wheel and then the buttons on top and bottom.
That's
tops
true.
and sides.
That is totally true. When I look back to that one, I kind of forgot that one even existed. And it had the huge FireWire port on top. I mean, it was, I kind of forgot about that one.
That was old school MP3, like kind of download that way.
Yeah.
But with the new ones, iTunes especially, like that iTunes 3.0 revolutionized the entire music industry.
Right.
I'm pretty sure it ultimately was starting to kill LimeWire and Napster because it gave people the option to get this music online. Sure, it was 99 cents, but you're only getting the songs you want.
Oh yeah, this is the exact conversation we had last week or 2 weeks ago when Apple had first revolutionized the music industry, and this was right around that time. And the iPod was the reason, was because there was an easy way, and because it connected only to iTunes. That was the only way you could load music onto it, and you could buy music through iTunes. It was like a natural fit. So I think that was, without the iPod, Apple would not have been able to, I don't think, have the success of buying songs on iTunes. People did it because they could put it on the most popular MP3 player at the time. So,
and I mean, it finally gave people the opportunity. I think it's a quote somewhere, it's some kind of line, but it's like taking all of their music with them. It's like taking their entire CD deck, being able to have it in their hand.
Right.
And I mean, that was the moment where it was like, oh my God.
It was a moment when all of us we were all sad we had to take off that CD thing we had strapped to our visors of all the little slots with the CDs in it.
I still had that in the car I drove when I was in high school.
Really?
Yeah.
That's true. I guess because not many of the cars had slots to plug in your thing. I remember I had a cassette tape that had a cord that came out of it. So you could slide in the cassette tape and you could actually play stuff from your iPod. So I thought that was pretty cool.
I had mixed CDs. I mixed CDs.
Oh, did you give one to your girlfriend? Try and like impress you to the girls? Like, hey, check out my mix.
No, girl I dated in high school gave me one.
Oh, role reversal. Look at that.
What? We're dating? I knew we were.
That was when you knew it was real, when you got that mixtape.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
It was one of those things. I wish I could still find that because I liked the music on it.
You probably could. Head back home. It's probably in a drawer somewhere.
No, I have no idea where it is.
All gone?
I can't find it.
Oh, sad. Okay, so actually going back quick to the cable conversation, PTD has a good point, and I've been talking about this on Jim Collison's show. All those guys over on that show are very techie, and they have a lot to do with like home servers and having the computers in the home. So PTD says that he uses an antenna with a computer with DVR software. And so he can actually record all the shows from the antenna to the computer, and then he can access that. I'm guessing it's probably on the network. It's probably like a server that he has, and he can probably watch that content in the house. I know that's what Jim Collison does, and it's actually a really interesting idea. I've thought of doing that because I don't pay for DVR service, and I've talked to Jim about this. I said, my DVR is Hulu. My DVR is those apps that have it streaming the next day. But for shows that maybe aren't on there, having that attached to your antenna, so PTD, kind of a very good suggestion and something I don't actually know how to do. I've never set up one of those, but it is possible to grab an antenna, plug it into a computer, and have DVR software running that can record what you are watching. So kind of a good suggestion from PTD in the chat room. All right, so we are going to move on to our tips and picks of the week.
It's the picks of the week, baby.
All right, tips and picks of the week. So we're calling, I tell you, useful things to do with your Apple products and picks of things that we like that we think you guys will like too. So this is what I was telling you guys we're going to talk about. We're going to spend a little bit of time diving into some detail on my top 10 security and backup tips. Now, this is the part of the show that if you are an advanced user, if you already do a lot of backup and security, just pause the show or turn it off, because these are going to be things for the everyday user that maybe doesn't do much with backup or security. You might learn something. There might be one or two in here that you guys haven't heard of before, but in general, this is going to be kind of an entry-level security and backup conversation. So I'm just going to throw that out there right away. So just to give you guys the option. So go ahead and pause. Right now, I'll give you pause. Okay. The ones of you guys are still with me, we are going to go through my top 10. Now, the top first few are going to be backup tips, and then the bottom few are going to be security tips. So we're going to start off with number one. Now, number one is probably the most universal. And again, we are focusing all on Mac here. Remember, this is an Apple focused podcast. This is for your Apple products. The number one, easiest to use, everyone should be doing it if you have the ability, is TimeMachine. TimeMachine, now it's not the most advanced, but it's the simplest to set up on your Apple products. So you can set it up with a network attached storage device, or you can just plug in a USB hard drive into your computer and back up to it. TimeMachine, the way TimeMachine works, now it's not the best if you want to create a backup of your computer to copy stuff over to a new hard drive or anything like that. What TimeMachine does is it makes iterative backups, meaning that, oh shoot, 2 days ago I deleted a file that I really needed. Pop up TimeMachine, scroll back 2 days, and the file will be there just like my Mac was 2 days ago. That is what TimeMachine is intended for, meaning that you can go back in time to, a month back, 2 months back, sometimes even a year back, depending on how big your hard drive is, and you can almost look at your computer exactly like it was that day and grab a file that you may have deleted or grab a file that has now become corrupt. You can go back and grab the non-corrupt version, things like that. So TimeMachine, it's free. It comes on every single Mac. All you need to do is plug in a hard drive and open up those preferences, and you will have TimeMachine. Now, it is possible to restore a computer. Let's say your hard drive crashes, right? Backup is all about what happens if my hard drive crashes, and they crash all the time. Your hard drive will go bad. It's not a matter of when, it's not a matter of what's that saying? Wow, I am completely blanking.
It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Yes, thank you, Colin. Drawing a blank. That's why I have a co-host. Anyway, so yeah, it will go bad. So TimeMachine, not the best for creating the backup, but you can restore a hard drive from TimeMachine. So if you do nothing else after the show, go enable TimeMachine. It will save you in the future. So when we talk about backup, you want local, you want offsite, and you want automatic. You don't want to have to remember to back up your computer. You just need it to happen without you thinking about it. Because if you rely on yourself, you won't back it up. And so TimeMachine is our local, right? So now we need an offsite form of backup. Now, offsite, there's a lot of different backup solutions to talk about offsite. When we talk about offsite, we're usually talking about the cloud, storing things in the cloud. Now, you could hook up a system with you and a buddy where he has a hard drive at his house, you have one at yours, and you cross backup. That gets really geeky, really complicated. I've thought about talking to Colin about setting that up, but even I'm like, it's not even worth it. I don't even want to do it. So that means I know Colin doesn't want to do it because it would usually be me making him do it. So the offsite one that I'm going to suggest is Carbonite. Now, I will admit that I used Carbonite for over 3 years and then I stopped using it. Now, that was because the software seemed to be slowing down my computer a lot. But it's been 2 years since I left Carbonite. I've heard that they are amazing now. They've gotten back to it. They fixed all the bugs in their software. So actually, I just need to go back in and reinstall Carbonite. But Carbonite is offsite storage. They back up your entire internal drive, no matter how big it is. You could have a 4 terabyte drive. If it's internal to your computer, they'll back it up for $60 a year. So not bad. You think of, it's not bad. It's $5 a month to back up your entire computer, to have that peace of mind. Even if your house goes up in flames and everything is just gone, you can restore a brand new computer from your Carbonite backup. You just log in online, it's all there, and you can download it and re-put it back on your computer just like it was. So that is why we have offsite, because even if you have a hard drive sitting right next to your computer that's backing up, what happens if it's a flood, fire, tornado, anything like that where all that's gone? It doesn't matter. You need offsite backup. So the nice thing about these two that I've already mentioned is the third aspect we talk about is automatic. You need these things to just work. So if you always have that external hard drive plugged in, TimeMachine will do its own thing. It'll back up when it needs to, and you'll always have an up-to-date version. Carbonite does the same thing. The initial backup to Carbonite takes days because it's uploading your entire hard drive to the cloud, but then every time after that, a change of a file, and within a few seconds, your Carbonite backup is up to date. PTD, man, he's on fire tonight, says that... Oh, sorry, that was Gavin Campbell, and then PTD said Crash Plan. Both of them are saying Crash Plan is a great option, and yes, Crash Plan is fantastic, does the same sort of thing, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat room, but Crash Plan is the application where if I want to, and Colin has a hard drive over at his house, and I have one here, we can set up our Crash Plans to back up to each other's houses, I believe. Now, they're probably going to correct me in the chat room, but I think that's one of the nice features about Crash Plan. But Crash Plan, Carbonite, there's a lot of them out there. You guys just go out and check for cloud backup storage, and usually they're pretty affordable, but I wouldn't pay anything more than $60 a year. Now, you can also back up external hard drives to Carbonite. It's just going to cost you a little bit extra per month. So, both those are automatic, which is great. So my next favorite is Carbon Copy Cloner. Now, Carbon Copy Cloner is an application you're going to buy off your computer. I cannot remember the price. For some reason, I want to say $30. You guys can go out and get the free trial though. What Carbon Copy Cloner does is it just takes an image, it takes your hard drive and just flashes an image to an external hard drive or to somewhere else. So it's a great way to say, hey, exactly how my hard drive looks now, just make an entire image and put it on an external hard drive. Carbon Copy Cloner, you can set it to backup whenever you want. I have mine to go like Sundays at like midnight because usually I'm not on my computer. Sundays at midnight, I'm in bed. Or you can do it, Monday mornings at 4 a.m., whatever you want to. You can set it up to be automatic. Now, the nice thing about that, the reason I like Carbon Copy Cloner, say more than TimeMachine, is Carbon Copy Cloner is intended for my hard drive crashes. I need to make this new hard drive look like my old one real quick and easy. Crash Plan, you just take the file that it made, plop it over there, and you're good to go. You're all set. Carbon Copy Cloner is fantastic. So the next one, Colin, this is one that you and I both use, and this is pretty basic. So if you don't want to pay for any sort of backup, Dropbox is great. You can put it onto multiple computers, and you get, I think, a free, right now it's 2 gigabytes for free. I think it's still 2 gigabytes for free. It
might be a little bit more than that now.
Is it? Okay, it might be more. Back when I started, it was 2 gigabytes for free. But you put the Dropbox folder onto your computer and anything inside of there, which, Colin, I don't know about you, but I literally have all my documents in there and some photos, but not too many. I just mainly do my documents in my Dropbox. And so any computer that I have Dropbox on, those files are always going to be there. So if one crashes, those files that are in that Dropbox folder are going to be safe. And for 2 gigs free, it's not a bad option. Now, obviously, this isn't going to be good for your photos or for videos because if you put photos and videos in there, you're going to just suck that down real quick. But Colin, do you like Dropbox? Do you find it pretty useful?
I mean, I don't use it that often anymore, but I have stuff that has been in there for like 3 years that every now and then I'll go back to, which that's kind of nice. I do enjoy it for that, but I mean, on a practical use, I don't use it that often. Everything I do, I get done at work, so I have computer and backup at work. So
gotcha. Okay, so yeah, for me, a lot of my stuff that I'm doing, my work stuff is at work, but for me, I need all my files, my laptop, my iPad, my iMac, so I have Dropbox on everything. Now, you can get up to a terabyte of Dropbox storage for, not much. I can't remember the price, but you can get a full terabyte on there. Now, the downside to Dropbox is that it's really hard to selectively sync stuff to each computer. So if my iMac's hard drive is a terabyte and let's say my MacBook is only a 256 gig, even though I have a terabyte of storage, it's going to try and sync everything down to each computer that has Dropbox installed. So it's very difficult to selectively sync what files you want. So once you put something up there, it's probably going to be on all of your computers that you have logged in. Okay, so PTD says it's $30 with an education discount and $39.95. Now, I think that's for Dropbox, if that's what he's referring to. Yes, and another good point is that Dropbox is syncing only. So if a corrupt file is in there, it won't help with that. So if you delete a file, then that file is gone. So that's another really good point about Dropbox. It's not iterative backup. So it's not like TimeMachine where you can scroll back and say, oh, shoot, I deleted a file. I need that back. Once you delete a file off your Dropbox, it's actually gone. So it doesn't help with mistakes like that. That's where you need something like TimeMachine. And then, okay, so my next one, we're on number 5. We're halfway through this tips and tricks. And now this is for if I can talk, this is for your photos. All of us have photos that we need backed up, and especially on our iOS devices. Now, there's 2 different options here that are kind of the main options when you're talking about backing up your photos. We'll go with 3. But first one is Flickr. Flickr actually allows you to have unlimited backups of your photos. So if you install the Flickr app, it can have automatic backup. So every time you take a photo, it'll upload it to Flickr. Now, it won't go public. It'll just stay private on Flickr, but it's a great way to have an entire backup of all of your photos for free. So if you sign up for a Flickr account and install the app, that's one free way to back up all your photos. Now, the next one is obviously the photo library that comes on your iOS devices and your Apple products. The photo library, sadly though, does cost money. So when you start that backup process, as all of you guys probably had to go through when you got the new Photos app on your computer or on your phone, it asked you, do you want me to upgrade your storage? Do you want to use Photo Library to sync all of your photos? Now, I chose to do that. That is the backup option I choose for my photos. It cost me $3.50 a month for like 200 gigs of Apple iCloud storage, which I already needed more storage anyway for all my backups of my phones, my phone, my wife's phone, my iPad. All those backups were taking up a lot of space. So I already needed more space anyway. So I just went with the 200 gigs, and all of my photos now are available on whatever device I want them on. It's actually one of the best features of the new iOS and Mac operating system. So Flickr and Photo Library. Google Plus also does this. If you have the Google Plus app installed, they do auto backups. I have it set up. Yeah, it backs up there. Sometimes it does a kind of a cool, auto awesome is what it's called. It'll edit the photo and stuff like that. But it's not really easy to get those photos back. Now, at Google I/O, they were talking about this whole new photos and everything like that and how it's going to be easy to use. I haven't messed around with it too much. I do have it enabled just in case I lose absolutely everything and Apple shuts down and everything goes crazy. I have another backup, but it's another free option. You can back up as many photos as you want with Google+. Colin, do you use any of those for your photos, or are you transferring them to your computer and doing it that way?
Well, I mean, I use Photos. I don't have it sync automatically, but I transfer every now and then. I'll pull whatever was on my phone, put it on my computer, and delete. But other than that, I mean, I also don't really like Google+. As someone who had worked with it every day for about a year and a half, and then authorship died. And
not a fan,
now,
huh?
Well, the thing is, they've been talking about splitting up Google Plus into Timeline and Photos for like 6 months.
Oh,
And
really?
there's been no movement. Everyone kind of is wondering if they're soon going to just shelve the whole project. But I don't
Wow.
know.
Okay, I didn't know. And what is authorship?
Authorship had a lot to do with like the SEO play that came into if you would write a blog post, whether it be personal blog or a blog that went on a company website, you could take your URL for your profile and give it a rel author HTML tag,
Okay.
like saying to follow to this link. So it would automatically index your name with that post in search results. So if your post came up, other people logged into Google Plus would see that your name and your photo along with your post.
Gotcha. Okay, and they disabled that.
They disabled that last September.
Okay, gotcha. Good to know. See, this is the kind of the pro stuff you get here on Open Mic Night, stuff I have no idea happening. Okay, good to know. So you avoid Google Plus. That's okay. But yeah, I mainly use it for the photos. I post there sometimes, but I get zero engagement. It's the network I have the most followers on, but they're all spam accounts. They're all like the most random things ever. And honestly, the alerts that I get on every person that like follows me on Google Plus, it's kind of weird. I don't know. I'm not a fan of it. I get very little engagement on it. I have some of my close friends that love it, and the Google Hangouts feature, the way we chat, I have a few of my podcasting and YouTube friends that's how we communicate. But besides that, don't use it too much. So, all right. So now we're moving into security. And FireVault is kind of like the time machine of security. FireVault is something that is built in to all of your Macs. And I suggest, my suggestion is going to be a little off the wall here because I only use FireVault on computers that leave my house. Because if someone has access, is robbing my apartment, then they've got my external hard drives, they've got everything. And as much as I would love to have all that encrypted, it's just difficult to keep all those different drives encrypted. So I actually don't have my home computer, which is probably against kind of what everyone says you should do. Everyone says everything should be encrypted. My home is not encrypted, which I probably will get around to encrypting that at some point. But at a minimum, any computer that leaves your house, if you're taking things with you that has a more likely chance of being stolen, just enable FireVault. It's in your system preferences. Now, it'll take maybe a day, depending on the speed of your computer, maybe just a few hours, depending on how much data you have, to encrypt your hard drive initially. But afterwards, having FireVault enabled is a great way just to have your entire hard drive easily encrypted. It's built into Apple. Again, one of the easiest free ways to encrypt your entire hard drive. My laptop right here that I use, that I take out of the house, FireVault is enabled. You might experience just a tad bit of a performance hike, downgrade when you have FireVault. Not even that noticeable unless you're doing really high-end tasks, but you will experience a little bit of a downgrade in speed and performance when you have your entire drive encrypted. It makes sense. It has to encrypt and decrypt your hard drive when it boots up and shuts down, stuff like that. So you will, especially on startup and shutdown, you will experience a little bit of a slowdown. But again, it's free. Now, number 7, this is one that I have experienced at every single person's house I've gone to, is Okay, so you have your home network, and anyone that I've been to who has a guest network, a lot of our Wi-Fi routers nowadays have the option to have a guest network, which is fantastic. It's awesome. Now, if you choose to use your guest network, that does not mean that you leave it without a password. I have seen so many houses that have like, oh no, that's our private network, and then, oh no, join the guest one. There's no password on it. Now, for me, if you think about that, that still means that people on the outside of your house, anywhere around, can log on and use your internet. So I'm not talking about security as in, once they're in, they can access your private network, because that's why you have the guest network. It's separate from your home network. But if you leave that open, people can use your internet. If you have a bandwidth cap, they can drain that down. They can throttle your speeds down, because if they're using internet and you're trying to use as well, your speeds will be going down. Always the purpose of the guest network is to separate it so they can't have access to your internal drives, your other computers, your printers, stuff like that. But put a password on there that's just easy for everyone. Even if you just have it be your first name. So my guest network, I could have my guest password is Mike123. Something just so you have just a little bit of protection on there. At least for me, I know I'm sensitive about my data cap. I'm very sensitive about my data speeds. If something's slowing down in my apartment, I want to know it's because of me and not because of people around stealing my internet. So guest Wi-Fi passwords, and even for your main Wi-Fi, have a password on it. For sure, have a password on it. It's the easiest way to save yourself from some definite hassle. So number 8, password managers. Now, Colin, I was going to ask you if you use one of these, because we talked about this back in college a few times. We went back and forth. We were always talking about, do we use them? Do we not? Password managers being stuff like LastPass, Password Vault, 1Password, all of those type of services where you have one main password and then it stores all of your passwords to all your websites, your apps, your banking, all of that stuff. Now, password managers are fantastic. They can be a little bit of a hassle to use on mobile devices, I will admit, but they are a very good way to ensure that you can put really long, complicated passwords on your Facebook, your bank account, your anything, and then you can just have your one password that you remember, and then you're all set to go. Now, password managers are a little bit different, if we're going to move into our next one, than browser storage of your passwords. I always suggest that people never use the password storage that's in their browser, because there's no master password you have to enter. If someone, especially at work or if you're at a school, let's say I have my browser open and I walk away, someone can just hop right on and all my passwords are stored in my browser. They don't have to enter anything to get in there. Now, a password manager is different, where you have that one password that you have to enter to get into your vault of passwords. So I always suggest use a password manager and stay away as much as you can from the browser passwords. It's just one more level of security. Or better yet, just remember your passwords. That's actually the best way. The best way is to have it in your brain and not written down anywhere, not stored anywhere. That's just the best way to do it. And one quick tip on how to do passwords. So my always standard for passwords is real quick and easy. Think of 5 random letters that mean something to you. Just a random, maybe an acronym, something that means something to you. Random, that doesn't spell a word, doesn't spell anything, just 5 random letters. Now you have your base password. You will put that on everything, and you can capitalize the first one if you want, if you need a capital letter in it. You have those down, and then now behind it, just put random chains of numbers that mean something to you. Last 4 of your phone number, some random zip code that you like to go to of your vacation, something that is a little bit meaningful, something you'll remember, your favorite number, your old sports number from high school, something like that. If you already have 5 random letters in front of it and then you have random numbers on the end, that's a pretty decent password. It's not the strongest password, but I guarantee it's going to be better than anything you can do. You never want any real words in there, and just randomness is always good. So I just know that I have a certain set of numbers for my banking and finance. I have a certain set of numbers at the end for my social media. I have a certain set of numbers on it for Xbox and all those, my gaming sort of stuff. So you can start to have a really good way of memorizing passwords, because you know your first 5 and then you have different numbers for different things. So quick and easy way to have a nice solid password. Wow. We cruised through that, and I felt bad because Colin had no chance to interject in there. But, sometimes I just like to ramble, like to bring it back to the good old days of me rambling to all of you guys. Did you like that, Colin?
Yeah, it's fine with me.
Okay. Well, and I'm going to ramble some more because I have a pick of the week. So you didn't get done with me yet. So my pick of the week is webcam settings. And so, okay, sorry, actually real quick. I keep forgetting to look over to the chat. RoboForm is a password manager that Gavin Campbell is suggesting. And PTD says that he uses LastPass, which is what I use. I use LastPass as my password manager, so I've never heard of RoboForm. I'll have to look into that and and see, but kind of cool. Oh, and also PTD says on your Wi-Fi, turn off the SSID broadcasting, which is a good suggestion. So what that means is that, when you go on your iPhone and you go to look at your Wi-Fi and there's all those names there of everyone around you, you can actually turn it off so your Wi-Fi does not emit the name. So people can't just say, oh, hey, look, there's a Wi-Fi, let me click on it. They actually have to know the name of your network. So that's just a basic setting that's going to be however you set up your Wi-Fi router. There's a setting in there to either mask it or turn off or do not broadcast the SSID. So a great suggestion from PTD in there to not broadcast your SSID. Now that's one that just depends on where you live. I probably should do that. I should probably turn off. I live in an apartment complex. When I look at there's like 50 wireless networks around me that I can access. I leave mine on for ease of use. I have a long password onto my Wi-Fi and stuff like that. So I still leave mine on for ease of use. I have a lot of people that do come over to the apartment and they're always asking what the Wi-Fi is. And instead of having them type it in, it's just a lot easier to have it on there. But if you don't have that, it's a great idea to turn off the SSID. So a great suggestion from PTD again. Man, PTD and Gavin Campbell just killing it in the chat room, and same with Brian. I'm just gonna say Brian. I don't know how to say the last name. Hour. Anyway, so my pick of the week, like I said, is webcam settings. So this is for the Mac. Now, you guys know if you guys have ever used a USB webcam on your Mac, that the software that comes with it never works for the Mac. Usually, it's a CD that only works on Windows. So what you see is what you get. When you plug in a webcam to a Mac, you can adjust the settings, the zoom, the tilt, the exposure, the backlight settings, all of the great settings, especially with, like, I have the Logitech C920, fantastic webcam, high definition, has a lot of different options to it. Not on the Mac, but with webcam settings, it's an app in the Mac store. For $5, you can have full control of your webcam. So if I go up to my settings panel, I can zoom in, I can zoom out, I can turn backlight settings, aperture, focus, all of that stuff I can adjust if I want to. So it's a $5 app that can save you. If you have this problem on a Mac, then it's the easy solution to it. You don't have to have individual applications for each webcam, and most of you even can't, but it'll save you in the future. Webcam settings, you can just look it up in the Apple App Store. It's for your Mac, and it's like $5. At least it was when I bought it, so I hope it's still $5. Colin, I feel awful. This was a long show that I kind of left you out of. Maybe I would love a top 10 from you someday. That'd be kind of nice. That'd be a fun top 10. But I apologize. But thank you for being here.
You're fine.
Yeah.
At one point, I was about to start just laying down.
Yeah, and I realized I'm like, maybe I should put the camera just on me. Maybe it's awkward for Colin to have to keep looking straight forward and not just be dozing off. So you did a good job pretending you were interested in what I was saying. So I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. We'll be back next week for sure. Pretty for sure. I can't say for sure, but we'll be back next week. Colin, you'll be here, right?
I should be. Cool.
Sounds good. So we'll be back next week. Again, if you guys want to support us on Patreon, patreon.com/OMN podcast. Would love to have your guys' support. And I want to give out some mugs. And I'm going to show you guys the new logo here pretty soon for those mugs. I think you guys will like it. So yeah, support us there. And you can always use the affiliate link on Amazon. So if you shop on Amazon, you want to support us for free when you're buying stuff, omnpodcast.com/Amazon. That'll take you over there. No extra cost to you. I just get a little bit because I sent you over there. Again, thank you again to everyone over at WLMNradio.com. And remember, if you guys have a podcast or if you were thinking about starting one, Mike at 2980network.com. And by the way, that is my new email for everything. So I have the old one forwarding. So if you send stuff to Mike at WeagerTech.com, that'll come to me too. But the new email, by the way, when I'm responding to you guys, is going to be Mike at 2980network.com. And email me if you guys want to get a show on our network. And that'll do it. That's it for this week. We will see you guys next week. We'll stick around for just a few minutes of post-show with the guys that are in the chat room. But that's it for this week. We will see you guys next time. But until we do, tech on.